Hello, my wonderful students. Today we're going to start talking about algebraic expressions. Algebraic expressions can be really fun, but we have to learn quite a few things before we can really dig deeper into them. Some of the most important things that we need to learn are going to be some vocabulary terms, so make sure that you have your math notes book available, open to the next clean page, and you're ready to go. Remember, if I'm writing, you're writing, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and start by giving our notes a title. Algebraic expressions. All right, so let's define algebraic expressions. What is an algebraic expression? It's an expression that contains, numbers, sorry, I know you guys are used to seeing me white stuff out. Numbers, operations, and what makes it specifically algebraic is that it includes one or more variable. So I'm going to show you some examples of an algebraic expression. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger too so that you can see it better. Okay, so here are some examples. X minus 7. That is an expression. 3x plus 4. That's an expression. X, Y. That's an expression. All right, so let's look at these for a second. So remember, back to our definition, it contains numbers, operations, and one or more variable. Okay, so right here when I look at the x minus 7, so it definitely contains a number because there's a 7 right there. It has an operation, which is subtract, and then it has a variable, x. This one, if we look at it, it has a number 3, has a number 4, it has an operation, addition, and it has an x as a variable. Now notice that 3x is in front, that 3 is in front of the x, and we say it as 3x. Well, interestingly, there is a number in front of the x as well, but the number is 1. And when we have 1x, we don't need to write the 1. It's kind of like saying, I have a bicycle. I don't say I have one bicycle. I just say I have a bicycle. So this is like saying I have an X. But it's the same thing as if I had said I have one X. Okay? And then over here I've got X and Y. Those are variables, and remember there's a hidden 1 in front of each of those. And I also do have an operation. It's kind of hidden, but when I have two variables right next to each other, it means multiply. Just like if I had 4 or 3x, it's 3 times x. Okay? So those are some examples. Now I'm going to show you some non-examples of expressions. Non-examples. Some non-examples of expressions would be 3 plus 7. I've got numbers and I've got an operation, but I do not have any variables. Okay, and then this is also a non-example. 3x plus 4 equals 10. And so you might say, but Mrs. Rodriguez, I see numbers, I see operations, and I see variables. I see them all. Why isn't this one an expression? Well, the reason why this is not an expression is because it has this guy, the equal sign. Okay? So this is really important. No equal signs in an expression. There are no equal signs in an expression, okay? All right, so let's take a look at an expression, and I'm going to do these in different colors, so if you would like to, you can do that as well. Otherwise, your pencil is fine. Just make sure you're being very neat with your notes so that you can understand what you meant when you wrote them, okay? So I'm going to write the expression 5 P, I'll make that a little darker, P plus 4. 5P plus 4. Okay? And so now I'm going to show you the different parts of the expression. So this is an example expression. And the first part is called a term. And a term is part of an expression. Okay, so the parts of this expression that are considered terms are 5P. That is one term. This is one term. And then also 4 is a term. Notice that my addition sign is not a term. Okay? Okay, so now the next word I want you to learn is coefficient. Coefficient. Okay, so this word is the numerical factor of a term that contains a variable. Okay, and so in this expression, my coefficient is 5. Because I have two terms, but this term does not contain a variable. Remember, the definition says it has to contain a variable. This term does contain a variable, p. So 5 is my coefficient to my p. And if you think about the beginning of that word the prefix think about like if you have usually means you're doing something with someone else, or like classmates, co-workers, co-teammates, things like that. So when you think about think about it has to be partnered. It's kind of like partnered with the variable. Okay, so it's the numbers that are in front of variables. All right, my next word, dun, 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 variables. And variables are a symbol. And it's usually a letter. that represent an unknown number. An unknown number. So we'll eventually know it when we learn how to evaluate the expression, but until we do, we don't usually know what it is. Or perhaps somebody will tell me what the variable is worth, but I won't know it until someone tells me or until I figure out how to solve it, okay? All right, and in this example, the variable is, hopefully you see it, the p. Okay, and then one more super important word that is really important to know is a constant. And a constant is a term with no variable. So it's just a number. And so when we look at our sample expression, hopefully you realize that 4 is our constant. Think of constant as it's always going to be 4. There's no variable attached to it, so the number's not going to change. It can't be any unknown number. It can only be 4. If I say I'm giving you 4 cookies and I only give you 3, then that's not constant, right? I'm not really giving you 4 cookies, am I? So 4 is 4 no matter how you say it, 4. Okay? It's constantly 4. It doesn't change. Okay? Okay. So let's take a look at a couple of expressions and just practice identifying what the items or what the parts are. So let's look at 5x plus 13 and then 2x squared plus y plus 3. Okay, now if you have colored pencils, this is a great time that we can use it, okay? So we can color code so that we match to up top, okay? So let's take a green pen and let's circle all of our operations, okay? So obviously addition is an operation. And then over in this expression, I've got 2 addition signs. So that means there are 2 operations in this expression. Okay? So green, operations. And then, okay, so let's take, I'm going to take yellow. And I am going to find all of the terms, okay? And I'm going to put a square around my terms. So 5x is a term. 13 is a term. 2x squared is a term. Y is a term. And 3 is a term. So yellow, term. Okay, so I'm going to take orange now. And now I'm going to go and find those coefficients. Remember, the coefficients are the factors, the numbers that are attached to a variable. Okay, so right here is a coefficient. I'm going to put a smaller rectangle around it. And 13 does not have a coefficient because there's no variable. 2x, 2 is my coefficient. Over here, we have a y, and we need to remember that there is actually a 1 in front of it, okay? So there is a 1 in front of it, and 1 would be the coefficient. But since it's not there, I'm not going to square it, okay? And 3 doesn't have a coefficient, okay? So 3. Orange is coefficients. Okay, now I'm going to take blue. And now I'm going to go and I'm going to grab the variables. So for the variables, I'm just going to underline them. Underline X. Well, there's a letter, so that's definitely a variable. And there's a variable. And so now I know that those are my variables. And then last things last, I'm going to look for my constants. I'm going to use red for my constants. And 5 is definitely not a constant because it's attached to the x. And in this problem, it's 5x, but I could change that 5. I could make it 4x or 3x or 2x or 50,000 gazillion x's. So 5 is not constant, but 13 is 13 is 13 is 13. So 13 is a constant, so I'm going to underline that. 2 is not a constant because remember, it could be 15x or any other number in front of that x. But 3 is a constant because 3 is 3 is 3 is 3 is 3. And there we go. We've identified all of our parts. Whew, that's a lot to remember, isn't it? Okay, so that's going to be our lesson for today. You're going to go and take a little quiz and you're going to practice with that. And I'm also going to post up a little anchor chart that you can either take a piece of paper and copy it and use crayons or markers or colored pens to copy it so that you have it as a great cheat sheet. Or if you have a printer at home, and even better if it can print color, that would be even more wonderful, you can go ahead and print it. And just put it in your notes book so that you can use it as a little cheat sheet. Alrighty guys, I will talk to you tomorrow.